Welcome to the Life Leadership Podcast with myself, Leila Singh, all things coaching, career and personal branding. This podcast is for ambitious career professionals like you, wanting to create a life of choice and freedom, to be, do and have more through overcoming limitations, to develop new perspectives and insights, and to redefine your success, be that in work, health, relationships, and so much more. Hi there, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Live with Leila. My name is Leila Singh, and I'm a leadership, career, and personal brand coach. And my mission is to impact 100,000 people's career trajectory beyond what they thought possible. Why? Because I'm passionate about helping you to realize what is truly possible for you when it comes to your life and your career. How do I do this? Through helping you to harness your leadership potential. I coach high achieving, ambitious and driven mid to senior level career professionals, typically working in the technology industry for promotion, for peak performance and positioning. In other words, a standout personal brand, all whilst showing up as the best version of yourself, which is what I call life leadership. On the topic of today, which is the power of self-awareness for your career success. Now, why am I speaking about this? Because it's something that is often overlooked, but is so incredibly significant when it comes to advancing your career. So often people tend to focus on the strategies around advancing their career. So for example, the next steps around aligning yourself with your influential network, something that I talk about on a regular basis. It could be getting clarity on what it is you want and planning out those steps to secure your next role or your promotion, or simply acquiring new skills, whether they're technical or soft skills. And whilst these skills are essential, why these strategies even are essential for your advancement in your career, they're only a fraction of what truly drives your success. And you may have heard the definition of success as mentioned by Tony Robbins, one of the largest motivational speakers from the US, and he talks about success being 20% strategy. So only 20% of your success is based on strategy, 80% is based on psychology. And what we mean by this is your mindset, your attitude, your levels of consciousness and self-awareness. So that is what we are focusing on here today, is the 80% towards your career advancement and success. And why is this important? So when we talk about self-awareness, we're talking about understanding oneself, first of all, through reflection, through introspection, which leads you to having a heightened sense of that self-awareness. In other words, you get to recognize the impact of your actions, of your thoughts, and of your emotions. And when you can do this, when you can understand this, then you can objectively evaluate yourself, you can manage your emotions more effectively, and you can align your behaviors with your core values, and also accurately perceive how others view you. And if you follow me on a regular basis, you will know I've spoken about this before, that often our view, our perception of ourselves can be quite different to the way that other people perceive us. And often that is because we put ourselves down. We don't really recognize our true our skills, the value that we have to bring, whereas other people see that in us. So often we feel or think that we're showing up in a certain way when actually other people perceive us differently. So when you build on your self-awareness, you get to harness that and be able to influence that even more. It also enables you to understand your unique motivations for why you do what you do, the reasons that you react in certain ways or respond to situations. It helps you to understand your character, your individuality, your uniqueness, and also, again, your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors as well, of course, as embracing all of that within your motivational behavior. And why is this important? It's important because it gives you that empowerment to influence both your life and your career towards your desired outcomes. So this when we talk about self-awareness here today, it is not only about your career, but it's also about how you can then harness that to influence the life that you want to create. So when we talk specifically about career, why is self-awareness important? It's important for a number of reasons. Number one is achieving your career advancement and that job satisfaction that you are striving for, which a lot of people look for. They want losing my words today, to enjoy what they're doing, to feel like they're doing something meaningful, to have experience that job satisfaction. And that is where having that self-awareness to be able to make the right decisions comes in. Another aspect of this that is essential is to develop your leadership skills, because when you are self-aware, you have more awareness of how you're showing up, of how you're responding to things. You get to respond accordingly rather than simply react or misinterpret, let's say, people's behaviors. You can effectively communicate with others, again, important for leadership, or simply in the workplace amongst your team, your peer group, your customers, your clients. It also improves your professional relationships with people because you better understand yourself, but also you get to then start understanding other people's behavior and what motivates them, what drives them, what triggers them as well. You get, as I said earlier, to manage your emotions more effectively and understand what triggers you, and it helps you to get greater clarity on both your personal and your professional goals. And despite all of these factors where self-awareness is so critical for you when it comes to being really successful, achieving that success, that visibility, the promotion, the significance that you want in your career, still yet self-awareness is so often overlooked and undervalued. Instead, the focus for most people tends to be on the strategy. So weighted heavily on the external achievements, the technical skills, the certifications and qualifications, as well as strategic positioning, all of which are necessary and important. However, what happens is we often neglect the internal work, so that introspection and reflection to develop your self-awareness that is necessary for the longer term sustained success. So what I want to share with you today is 5 strategies to help you to begin to develop your self-awareness. And you may find that actually you're already doing 1 or 2 of these. And if you are, that is fantastic. Keep doing what you're doing. And if you are not, that's okay too. This is about starting to understand how you can develop your self-awareness to enable you to have more influence on the outcomes that you are seeking in your life and in your career. So if you haven't already done so, grab a pen and paper so that you can make some notes. And of course, as I said, any questions that you've got on this topic and what I'm sharing today, please do pop them in the comments and I will answer them either here live or indeed on replay. I will come back and respond to you accordingly. So just tag me in to your questions. Okay, so here we go. The first strategy is your introspection audit. In other words, what I invite you to do is to begin an introspective audit to assess your current level of self-awareness. So reflecting on your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors throughout any particular day. So here are some questions that you can ask yourself. Number 1 is, how aware am I of my thoughts, my feelings, and my behaviors? So if you take time, 5 minutes at the end of each day, maybe before you go to sleep, to have a notebook beside your bed and just go through some of these questions and reflect on your day, you'll start to notice how you show up, the thought processes that you're having, the emotions that are coming up for you, and how you behave, the actions that come alongside that. Because those behaviors, those actions are a direct influence from those thoughts and those emotions that you're experiencing. So how aware are you of those? Start to recognize them. Number 2 is, what impact does my language have on myself and others? In other words, how do I speak to myself? Do I put myself down, or do I recognize my small wins throughout the day and how well the day has gone? Or do we pick that one thing that perhaps didn't go to plan and really beat ourselves up over it. How do we speak to other people about ourselves? And how do we speak to ourselves about other people? So all of this is about the language that we use and the conversations that we have, both with ourselves, about ourselves, also with other people about ourselves, and also the conversation, the dialogue we have in here about other people. Start to recognize and notice. This is what self-awareness is, becoming so much more conscious of how we're operating, particularly up here. Okay, the third question is, have I ever stopped to reflect on my self-talk? So again, coming back to where we maybe put ourselves down, we're really self-critical, tell ourselves we're not good enough. You know that the chimp that sits on our shoulder here and holds back from moving forward because it tells you you're not ready, you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, you don't have enough accreditations and certifications and all that good stuff. That doesn't help us, it hinders us and limits us from actually achieving our true potential. So check in with your self-talk. The next thing is asking yourself, do things happen to me or do they happen for me? In other words, am I playing the victim and things are just happening to me and I have no control, or things happening for me? And then you can check in and say, well, actually, how could I respond differently to that? How could I have interpreted that or perceived that in a different way that would actually be of a benefit to me rather than hindering me and putting myself down? Ask yourself, do I react or do I respond to situations? In other words, do I simply react without thinking? Do I get triggered easily and lash out? Or do I jump to conclusions and judgment very quickly? Or do I choose to respond? In other words, do I give thought to what's just occurred or the conversation I've had or what someone has said or done, and then think about it in a way that's actually more resourceful and respond accordingly? And the final one here is understanding where you focus. In other words, do you typically focus on problems or do you look for the opportunities? Do you see problems and look for opportunities within them, or do you simply just see problems all of the time? All of these things, this is not about making you right or wrong. This is about bringing all of this into your awareness, because once it's within your awareness, now you get to choose what you do with that. Do you get to keep doing what you're doing, understanding that it's not really serving you, it's not moving you forward, or do you get to shift your perspectives on your reality that you're creating through your thoughts and your behaviors and actions? So that's number one, is your introspection audit. This helps you to gauge where you're at when it comes to your levels of self-awareness. The second strategy I want to share is to embrace feedback. And what I mean here is to elicit feedback from colleagues, from mentors, from peers, people who you trust their opinion, you value them, you know that they have your back, that they will be honest in a constructive way, and reach out to them and ask for that feedback. Seek out the constructive, the honest feedback, as I said. And why I say this is because it can provide you with valuable insights into how others perceive you, and also, and by the way, that will probably surprise you because often we don't see ourselves as in as good enough a light as other people see us, and also they may be able to highlight areas for improvement. So remember here to approach the feedback with an open mind and a willingness to learn and to grow and to improve, because that's what this is. None of this is about making you wrong or making you less than. It's simply about, here's where I'm at now, what can I do to improve by that 1%? And being open to that feedback is a really great part of doing this. So the third strategy I want to share is mindfulness practice. And you may have heard the word mindfulness. It's bandied around a lot these days. It means different things to different people. What I'm talking about here is incorporating a mindfulness practice into your daily routine. So why is this important? It's important because it can help you to stay present and also aware and conscious of your thoughts and emotions without judgment. In other words, it helps you to let go of that unconscious judgment that we put on ourselves. And some of the techniques here that I'm referring to when I talk about mindfulness are things such as deep breathing exercises. Why? Because deep breathing helps you to get grounded, get calm, and to be present, and then to start being connected to your consciousness. Another way of doing this is meditation. So that's something you do already. Start to just notice what comes up for you when you're meditating. Again, maybe asking those questions that I talked about in the first strategy, just after you've meditated or while you're meditating, to see what comes up for you. And journaling mindfully is something that can enhance your self-awareness over time. This works for some people don't see the benefits. So play with these things, see what works for you, what is best. I'm not suggesting you do all of these things, but trial them out, pick one that works for you, that you resonate with, that feels comfortable to fit into your daily routine. So again, meditation, deep breathing, journaling are some of the ways to practice mindfulness. The fourth strategy I want to share with you is reflective journaling. Now, this is where you can maintain like a notebook where you document your thoughts, your emotions, and your experiences. Because when you document them, you really reflecting back and going through that introspection of your day or your week and noticing things you may not have noticed otherwise, because you've been unconsciously just going through the day. And that's how most of us operate, unconsciously. So when you slow down and start to actually document some of the experiences that you're having, the feelings, the emotions that came up from the day, and the thoughts that you were having, this is where the awareness really starts to build. It can also, by doing this on a regular basis, it also helps to process your internal experiences, again, things that you haven't maybe noticed before. It'll help you to recognize patterns in your behavior, and potentially the ones that aren't serving you, the ones that are maybe limiting you or having you play a small game. Also, it'll enable you to gain some clarity on your goals, your personal goals and your professional goals, when you start to journal, because you'll start to notice things that are coming up for you as you write. And again, similarly to the mindfulness, journaling also enables and encourages deeper introspection and self-discovery. And the fifth strategy that you can take on board is to develop a growth mindset. So remember, I mentioned being open to feedback. Again, that's having a growth mindset. So think about growth mindset as talked about by Carol Dweck, where she talks about understanding that your intelligence, talent, creativity, and skills can grow. They can develop with time and experience. Similarly, so can your self-awareness, and that's where this piece comes in. So embracing challenges, viewing potential failures as learning opportunities. It's what you take from things that don't work that make the difference. That's where the growth happens, rather than beating yourself and putting yourself down for the fact that something didn't work out as you had hoped for or planned for. You can either label it a failure or you can label it a learning experience. That's down to you. That's choice. And actually, when we look at it as a learning experience and spend some time looking at, okay, what went well? What could we have done differently? What could we do better the next time? Then you're learning from it. All the successful people have deemed to have failed in some way, but they've taken that as learnings to then become successful. Another thing here is to have that belief in yourself that you have the capacity to learn, to grow, and to develop and improve. Because when you have that openness to that, then that's where the capacity comes in for you to develop that self-awareness. If you limit yourself to say, well, I can't do this, or it's not possible, then of course you're already creating that reality for yourself that nothing can change. And remember that the mindset shift that you have from a limited mindset to a growth mindset, this is where you really get to enhance your self-awareness by being open to embracing new ideas, new ways of thinking, new perspectives, seeing life through a different lens. And this in turn will drive your professional development. So as a quick recap, what are the 5 strategies that you can use and leverage here to develop your self-awareness? The first one I mentioned is your introspection audit. That is something you can do to really get to first understand where you're at in terms of your levels of consciousness, of self-awareness, and then identify what you can do to close those gaps. And the questions that I mentioned earlier within this particular strategy are things you can check in with on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be a one-off exercise. The questions you can revisit perhaps on a weekly basis or a monthly basis to see what's coming up for you. The second one is embracing feedback, being open to constructive feedback and improvement. The third is mindfulness practices such as meditation, as deep breathing and journaling. The fourth is reflective journaling. So being intentional about reflecting on your day and your week to see what shows up for you, what's coming up, how you've reacted or responded to situations, to conversations, to other people. And then finally, developing a growth mindset. So again, being open. All of these are really powerful practices when it comes to opening up and developing that self-awareness for yourself. Now, you might be still thinking, well, why should I be doing this? Why should I invest time on this? Well, here's the thing. Developing your self-awareness will absolutely better position you to achieve your career goals, whether it's securing that promotion, leading a high-performing team, or simply building a standout personal brand. In other words, positioning yourself. You get to align your actions with your values. You get to communicate more effectively and build stronger professional relationships. So there are so many benefits to this. It opens up a whole new world when we really start to become present and aware of ourselves and understanding ourselves more. Ultimately, self-awareness isn't just simply a tool for personal growth. It actually is a strategic asset when it comes to your professional success, which is why it's such a significant part of the work that I do with my clients. So yes, we focus on the strategies. We look at getting clarity on what it is you want. We look at building your confidence. We look at building executive presence. We look at effective communication at all levels, both one-on-one or to an audience, one-to-many. We look at honing, nurturing those relationships because your network is so important. And we look at personal leadership. But most of all, the most amount of time will always be spent on self-awareness, the mindset work, the personal growth areas, because remember, your strategy is only 20% of your success and the psychology is 80%. So with that in mind, this is where your self-awareness becomes your strategic asset. It's foundational if you're someone who's striving for peak performance, if you're striving for career advancement or stepping into leadership. This is a really important area to spend time on. And this is not to negate the fact that your external strategies are important. Of course, as I said earlier, they are. However, the internal work of really understanding oneself is as if not more important and really drives the longer term sustained success for you. And when you can do this, when you can embrace that self-awareness and really harness it and adopt those strategies that I've shared with you today, you really get to unlock your full potential and achieve those outcomes, influence and achieve the outcomes that you're striving for in your career and in your wider life. Until next week, I'd like to remind you to harness your potential, to elevate your performance and to strive towards your growth, whether that's pursuing your next role, your next promotion, or taking on that big project by showing up as the best version of you. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. And if you enjoyed and gained value from today's episode, then do please leave a review telling us your key learnings and what you enjoyed the most. And do please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues so we can spread the word on life leadership, creating a life of choice, freedom, and new possibilities. Connect with me directly on LinkedIn, and if you would like to learn more about how we can work together, either DM me on LinkedIn or email me. All details and resources can be found in the show notes.